had a dream of getting DSP, Wings of Redemption, and Boogie 2988 on a podcast, the Lolcow podcast. The entire internet loved this idea, except for there was a huge problem. DSP.
So it's finally happening, everybody. The long-anticipated Lolcow podcast is actually coming to fruition. And I'm actually impressed because if you are unaware of the difficulties that arose prior to the first episode coming out, let me give you a brief synopsis. Essentially, when Keemstar was floating the idea of the Lolcow podcast, he told DSP, Wings, and Boogie, and then DSP tried to take that idea and go with Boogie and make their own podcast around the same idea. Well, it didn't work out, fortunately, I guess. And then when Keemstar actually sets this up and they're getting ready to do it, Boogie got in contact with somebody that he thought was a reputable producer to be in the show, and it turned out it was just some scammer guy who had scammed in the past, and essentially he got the copyrights for everything associated with the Lolcow podcast. He also owned all the socials for it. So essentially they had recorded 2 or 3 episodes with this other guy, and they didn't actually own any of that content. So they had to stop, and that's when everybody thought, well, Lolcow podcast, that's over. That's not happening. Well, fortunately, they decided to rebrand it to Lolcow Live, and now they're going to make some epic videos, I'm sure. I'm super excited for it. You know, I'm sure people like Wings and Boogie are really going to put their best foot forward.
And we have our cows, tommyc, Wings of Redemption, Boogie 2988, but we also have our farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, Muta, Some Ordinary Gamers, Turkey Tom, Nicholas DiOrio. They're the B team. We got the A team with the cows, the B team with the farmers. This whole show is something that you have never seen before on a podcast, and it's finally happening.
So I'm going to be a bit of a Debbie Downer here, in all honesty. I don't think that this podcast is going to be the sweeping success that Keemstar thinks it's going to be, because I think within the first 10 episodes, we're going to get everything we can out of these guys. Or one of them, probably Boogie, is going to try and back out. And I know that they're going to bring other content creators in to try and stir the pot a little bit, but how much more can you talk about the same topics over and over and over again? I know it's ironic coming from me, considering that's what my entire channel is just talking about the same things over and over and over again, but I don't know. I'm questioning it a little bit, because I also am not a big Tommy C fan, in all honesty. I think he's really annoying, and I don't really think in this first episode he adds a whole lot to the dynamic. And that's what made the reason why DSP essentially makes this a success, or could be a success, is because he's like a man shrouded in mystery, in a sense. Because Boogie and Wings can't help themselves but overshare everything in their entire lives. Meanwhile, nobody can trust anything that Phil says. Not saying that people can trust what the others two say, but he intentionally sort of says things that make you think, well, that can't possibly be true. For instance, I covered him having his wife's car's tire stolen a couple months ago. And that was a whole big shebang of people questioning whether or not that was actually true. Because he has been called out for the past for e-begging and lying about the stance why he's e-begging. And so he was the one that really made it, because I think that's the character I was most intrigued by, because you can get most information about the other two one way or another. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
When I say the word 3, clap into your microphone. Can we all handle that? All right. 1, 2, 3. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Boogie, did you even attempt to clap?
Yes, you can see it on the video if you don't believe me.
So for some reason, Boogie is in a horrible mood this entire video. He's just pissed off. It's not surprising. I mean, Tommy C will go on to explain that they were arguing prior to this coming out, and he's just all grumpy. He's all sad. And I'm going to be 100% honest. You know, I feel like I enjoyed the times that Wings participated in this video, but you'll find out very quickly that Tommy C and Boogie absolutely drown the conversation. They drown it because they can't help but talk over each other nonstop and yell and shout, and that's not who Wings is. Wings is more silent and quiet, so he might have a quip here or there, but they're not going to give him the time of day to interject as much. You know, and it shouldn't be too surprising because he's competing against a habitual patient room attendee and your average Palestinian supporter. So how is he gonna be able to compete with those two when they're shouting at each other?
About 22,000 people showed up to watch me review it, and Boogie was talking about being mad at like Moist Critical in his views. I'm like, I hope he didn't watch my shit because I kind of went hard in the paint on it. But like,
you went harder than Moist Critical? I watched that video.
Easily went harder than Moist Critical. And like, I love Boogie to death, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I understand that some people, you treat people differently based on who they are as a person, not who you want them to be as a person, right? And like, I love Boogie to death. I think he's a great person. But like, I try to be entertaining, and like one of the ways I try to be entertaining is being witty.
Here's one thing that I'll never understand. For a man who was so quickly and is still quickly ready to just lambaste strangers on video games when he's playing with them or playing against them, how can he possibly turn around and think, yeah, Boogie's a good guy? Boogie's real nice. And we'll get into the critical stuff as the video goes on and the whole point of contention. But somehow these three all are on the same page that it's like, well, Boogie's just misinterpreted. You know, parts of the documentary, people just didn't understand. They couldn't comprehend what they were trying to say. And to that I say, what do you think, I'm dumb? You think I'm a little stupid little boy? A little baby boy who can't comprehend what Boogie's doing? Boogie's the massive manipulator in every instance, all the time. And you're trying to tell me, nah, he's actually really nice and really kind, and he has a sweet heart, and he's really compassionate. And it's like, no, that's not who Boogie is. And if you believe that's who he is, then you yourself are being manipulated. And Boogie is all the more grateful for that, because if he can manipulate these two, then the podcast will not be a detriment to him. He can sort of, you know, twist them and mold them to how he wants the conversation to go. And we won't get as good of content because of that.
Right?
Hey, man, I'll be honest, before the show, just so people know,
you're a jerk off.
I told them there was one thing I really didn't want mentioned, and you're like, you're just trying to manipulate me. And I'm like, no, there's just one thing I don't want to talk about today. And you're like, you're manipulating me. You're trying to get out of the show.
Right. And then when I agreed to it, what did you do? You made one more demand. And then when when we got by that, why do we record things different?
No, I just had two. I had two requests.
This is the problem with your whole life.
No.
Anybody that tries to help you try to sandbag and manipulate.
Let me speak. I had two requests. There's a content creator who...
Don't bring it up if you're going to talk about it, pussy. If you're going to sit there and we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
So I have no idea which content creator Boogie is so afraid of that he doesn't want it to be brought up. It could be McJuggernuggets, potentially. I really don't know. Maybe there's a troll out there that he's really afraid of. Maybe it's Frank Castle. I really don't know which character it is that Boogie is so petrified of that he's ready to walk off the show if that person's brought up. And he had to draw a line in the sand. He had to chalk it out. And I'm actually on Tommy's side with this stance. It's like, if there's something that's so egregious to you, that's just like, oh, I can't deal with X, Y, or Z, and then you continue to bring up X, Y, and Z, then it's like, well, you clearly want sympathy from it, or you want some sort of ulterior motive attached to it. So either shut your mouth or discuss it in fully. There's no in between.
Yeah, like I did.
You sent a hooker's kid to school?
Yeah, I really did. I helped somebody, like the documentary said, I helped somebody with their nursing degree.
Paid all people's lunches.
I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think the mental state I was in was I wanted to feel useful. I wanted to feel appreciated. I wanted to feel like a good person. And doing that let me feel like those things.
So here's the problem with this whole situation. So Boogie basically is outlining where all this money that he spent on hookers went to and what it's associated with and what it's attached to. And one of them was there was some girl that wanted to go through nursing school and she had a mentally disabled child. So he helped pay for special classes or something with that. It's surface value. It's redeemable. But once you start to examine it as, well, Boogie's trying to pork your mom, so he's trying to find a way to slip it in, and it just so happens he's like, well, I'll spend $1 gajillion on school for your boy and hope that she'll let me smash. And it also doesn't help that Boogie's over here saying, well, I wanted to be viewed as helpful. I wanted to have a purpose in life. I wanted to do things for others. Well, Boogie, you had a wife. You didn't do any of that stuff for her. She did everything for you. And now you want to try and change your life around and say, well, I just want to seek purpose in my life. I just want to find something I could do. And so you turn to helping out hookers and paying for trips for them and buying luxury items for them so that they can pretend like they're living a lavish lifestyle. And this is where the critical comment comes in, because essentially Critical said that Boogie is using these women for sexual gratification, which is 100% true. Boogie loves the dynamic that he is the man in charge. He is the one that can give them an out, and they have to abide by what he wants. They have to succumb to him in order to get out of a dire situation. It's not some philanthropic ideal that Boogie is trying to accomplish. It is solely a manipulative stance that he's trying to do on vulnerable women, and now we know also their children.
Yeah, I think I'm finally able to admit that I'm a covert narcissist, and it's something I'm working on. But that said,
okay, fair enough.
I think Charlie absolutely probably thinks that, but has hyped it up a little bit for the video, right? Like, you know, like so. One of his classic memes is when he's like, "Woo!" He's probably not that excited. He's being sarcastic for entertainment value. Maybe that's what he was doing.
I don't think
here,
it makes any sense. I don't think.
I do think there's a grain of truth. I think there's a grain of truth that he thinks I'm a piece of shit.
Yes.
And here's why: because I am kind of a piece of shit.
You think?
You're not kind of a piece of shit. You're fully a piece of shit. All right? I don't like the semantics that people always try and do, the soften blows of things that are true. Well, I'm just kind of a piece of shit. You know, I'm not that great of a guy sometimes. It's like either you are or you aren't. And that's exactly what Tommy C was trying to say before he got talked over. Meanwhile, notice that Wings has barely participated in any of these clips because these two blabbermouths can't help but stumble over each other the entire time. And Tommy C is basically trying to say, well, you can't say that you feel bad for him and then, you know, tear him apart and critique him. Well, yes and no, because potentially Critical could be looking for Boogie to change his lifestyle for the better, and then he would cheer that on potentially. I mean, me personally, I think Boogie's pretty irredeemable, especially after this documentary came out. I think he's just a grotesque pervert who is a manipulator and seeks to pull one over on everybody that he ever interacts with. And now he's coming out to say, well, yeah, I think I am a covert narcissist. How are you covert? Everybody sees it. You only care about you, and you'll do anything to accomplish something for yourself. You don't care about your fans. You don't care about your girlfriend. You don't care about anybody on this podcast. You just suck. You're horrible. And I'm not going to twist and turn things and say, yeah, I feel bad for Boogie. I don't feel bad for Boogie. He's 50. He had plenty of time to try and figure it out. And instead, he will just always say, well, my mind is all messed up. He'll even say it to Wings. Oh, my mind's all messed up. I just can't figure it out. You know, you're more healthy than I am. And it's like, just shut the fuck up.
Her family was they watched the doc and they were really supportive. Really? I was shocked by that.
Her family knows about you? Holy crap.
Oh yeah, I've met the family. We're having Thanksgiving together. They're actually really fantastic. They have said,
Stay away from her.
no, they have said, look, you clearly make her very happy, and we just want her to be happy. But if you hurt her, we'll put you underground. That's
Good.
basically
I thought
what
you were
they
about
said.
to say his father asked you for Geritol advice or some shit like that.
You sure they don't think you're hiding money or something? Yeah, that's true. No, I've seen that before.
I think her angle is just like,
She loves you, really?
yeah, I think she just wanted to like have
hope
a
so.
happy life, man. She just wanted to have a happy life, and she thought that maybe I could be part of that happy life.
A broke ass guy that's overweight, fucking.
Well, I've said this a million times. If you get with a woman who sees your potential, then that's the woman you fucking marry. And that girl sitting in there on the couch right now sees my potential.
That's the one you fooled.
So it's no surprise that a girl who was 19 trying to date a morbidly obese loser who has no money and is accredited for being a manipulator and a criminal online, that her family would also be a bunch of garbage, just a heap of trash. It's no surprise. I mean, it is funny that Boogie's saying, oh yeah, you know, they're saying you better treat her right or we'll put you 6 feet underground. It's like, you're not 16-year-olds dating each other in high school, all right? You're a grown-ass man. It is revolting to think that I would take you in this situation. If I had a child that was dating you and we were the same age, there's a 0% chance I would let you come. 0. Not a chance at all. Because you're a grotesque pervert. Whether or not you want to admit to it, that's a whole, completely different argument. But the fact of the matter is, anybody that is consciously dating somebody that is unbelievably younger than you, and then you're trying to fool yourself into thinking, well, she's the one that I'm gonna marry because she makes me feel so good about myself and we're just a perfect pair for each other. And it's like, no, she's not. You love that you can just twist her around your finger. She'll do anything for you. And of course, that's all that Boogie ever wants in life. He wants to live life on easy street. He wants everybody to take care of him, and he never wants to make any changes for himself. So, in the 5 years from now, when Boogie croaks and dies, you know, it might not be the worst day in the entire world.
Because I'm saying I've been swatted 5
Well,
times.
you a bitch, Boogie.
I've had
But
ATF raid my house.
But also, would you not agree that you are probably mentally healthier than me? Because I would say by a lot.
I got to the point where, like, I'm hard as woodpecker lips, dude. Like,
Yeah,
like,
I ain't
you get
there
enough
yet.
assault
I hope to
rifles
be there.
pointed in your face, you kind of get numb to it.
I hope to be there. I hope to be there one day, but that ain't where I am. And I have an anxiety disorder. I have a diagnosed.
Shut up! You might be crazy.
But I do. I have a diagnosed anxiety disorder, and this shit's just hard for me. This shit's just hard for me, man. That's all I'm saying.
That's why you come here to vent. This is better therapy. Than
Come on,
this fucking
every fucking middle-aged housewife has anxiety disorder, Boogie. I do
Yeah,
as well.
Jesus, right.
So Wings from the top rope just absolutely bodies Boogie. Because, like always, Boogie's going to be the victim. Well, you have to say that mentally you're in a better state than I am. And it's like, Boogie, what the fuck is so wrong with you? Like, what's so wrong in your life? You sit and play video games all day. You gorge yourself on food all day. And yet, you're going to try and turn around and pretend like, oh, I'm like a Vietnam vet. You know, I had to see 12 of my friends fall into a napalm fire. And I had to strangle a tiny Vietnamese man who was hiding in a tree. You know, like, that's what you're trying to compare yourself to. You're trying to act like your experiences are like these astronomical feats that you can never overcome. No matter all the different medicines and treatments you try and do, nothing ever works. I wonder why. Maybe it's not the treatment fault. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your fault. That's why you never change. That's why nothing about you is ever different and you deflect constantly. You're just, oh God, he's so annoying to listen talk about this stuff, because why would anybody ever give sympathy to him? He sucks. He's like lower than low.
I don't know, man. I bet Woodahar goes. Do you think is he fat? Does he go to a gym?
No, he ain't fat, but like just because you're
I
not
don't
fat doesn't mean you want to whoop somebody's ass.
You whip that guy, you think you whoop his ass? Oh, God, let's talk to Keem about that. I would love to see it. Hey, listen, guys. First one's in the tank. I don't know if this is going to get because...
So basically, they get in a whole conversation about what happened between Boogie and Mudahar, And Wings claims that he thinks that he could beat Mutahar in a fight. Now, I don't know any of the statistics between them. I don't know how tall Mutahar is. I don't know how heavy Mutahar is. I mean, he's not in great shape. And I also don't think he's very tall. So maybe Wings could. I mean, Wings was more agile in the fight against Boogie than I thought he was going to be. So maybe there's a chance there. I really don't know. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see how this podcast goes. I'm not going to talk about each episode, I'm sure. But it might get better, it might get worse. We'll just have to play it out. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about the initial episode. Either way, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.